What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony back with another edition of The Fourth Man. Appreciate everyone who is tuning in as always, and welcome to all the new listeners. If you're new to the Big Three, if you're new to the podcast, we appreciate you guys as always. Got a great episode coming up for you guys. There's a lot to catch up on. I haven't had a episode come out in maybe 10 days, maybe not even that long. And a ton of news has come out in terms of the draft lottery, which happened last night, recording the day of the draft combine. So more news to come, obviously. We got team acquisitions, we got roster changes. So a lot to unpack within this episode. And on top of all that, have a dope ass interview on the back end of this. So appreciate everyone who's tuning in, and we're going to get into it. Before we get into the show, as always, if you want to find the show on social media, it's at Fourth Man Pod. Guys, I'm posting a ton, more than I probably ever have in the 3 or 4 years that I've been doing the pod, that I've had this page on Instagram and on Twitter. So if you want to be caught up with everything, if you need to get updated on new things, make sure you're following, especially on the Instagram side right now during the season. Twitter will be more important than ever, as I'm going to be live updating during the game. But right now, in terms of news, changes, anything to do with the players or anything to do with the league, I'm posting everything I possibly can on Instagram and trying to be as up to date and accurate as I possibly can as well. Also, if I hear any intel, trying to post that on there within every post I do. So make sure you're following there. If you want to watch the show and like a more visual aspect of the show, you can find the show on YouTube at youtube.com/fourthmanpod. We're doing the interviews. Got some live streams coming up again. Going to do a mock draft. Going to do live reactions to the draft and have a even bigger crew this time around. Last year we had about 5 people. This year we're expecting maybe 8, maybe 9 people, more players on. So a lot of good stuff going over there. And yes, I'm still going to be dropping a video. I've been trying to create it. I'm horrible at this. So sorry, guys. Hopefully one day I will get better at this, but I want to at least keep to my word. I have a video that's up and ready to go. Just need to edit a little bit more and add a little music on the background. And last but not least, want to say a big thank you to Dash Radio and the guys over there at the Nothing But Net channel for providing us with a platform for listeners on that end to hear Big Three news and updates on Saturdays as well as Mondays. We appreciate you guys as always. And if you're a listener over there that tunes in every week or every other week, whatever the case may be, on Mondays or Saturdays, we appreciate you guys as always. Now, let's get into all the news and try to, man, I don't even know where to start. There has been so much that has happened in the past 10 days. I think I'm going to start with what has excited me the most, that I think is the most important news to discuss. I think that's going to be a high priority on everyone's and it's most exciting to everybody else. So let's start with all the roster changes, from guys getting promoted to co-captains to guys who are joining the league, guys who are at the combine today. There has been a lot going on. A lot of teams will look different this year, and not all the teams have even been confirmed yet in terms of their captains and their co-captains as well. So a lot still to come. But let's start with probably the biggest team change and the team that will probably look the most different, at least up to this point, and that's Three's Company. A lot has changed. Mario Chalmers has gone from co-captain and been promoted to captain. DeMar Johnson will not be with the team next year, and I don't think he'll be playing in the league. I guess it's still possible, but as of right now, it doesn't look like he's going to be playing. Michael Beasley will be a co-captain for Three's Company and will be making his Big Three debut this summer, a guy that I'm super excited about. I'm sure the league is super excited about. It seems like he's been on their radar and someone they've been targeting for a long time. And I think everyone's talked time and time again about the addition he'd make and just what kind of impact and results he'll put up. Like we're talking like instant MVP candidate right now. Alongside Michael Beasley, a co-captain, will be Brandon Rush, who's going to come over from Aliens. Mario Chalmers and Rush were obviously teammates at Kansas, so they are now reunited at Three's Company. Drew Gooden, I'm not sure if he's going to be at the combine, if he's going to be a captain somewhere else. I guess that's definitely plausible, but he won't be back with Three's Company. So Three's Company looking a lot different. They have loaded up, and it's going to be interesting to see who they add within the draft pool. Another team looking a little bit different and still unsure of who what their final product will be. And that's Trilogy. Now, they don't look extremely different. They did move on, or I guess Jerry Jack moved on from the league. He's obviously been an assistant coach within Phoenix. So one and done, won a championship, nabbed co-rookie of the year. So excellent one and done season for Jerry Jack. And just want to say a big thank you for, bracing us, with this presence within the league during the 1 year. It was a really fun season to watch, and to see what Trilogy did, from start to finish was truly amazing, and a big impact he had on the league. We'll forever remember season 4 being, he'll be, thinking of season 4 and thinking of Jerry Jack as one of the key players within that league. So finally, it seems like what's we thought would be a move for forever ago, but James White has been promoted from co-captain to captain, a guy who's been with Trilogy since the inception of the league, only guy within the big 3 to win 2 championships, and finally gets his shot to lead this team from the top. And James White gets a much well-deserved promotion into captain. Amir Johnson is still going to be the co-captain, but the other co-captain now is going to be Earl Clark, who they decided, hey, we don't want to take the chance of him being in the draft pool and not knowing where our spot's going to be within the draft lottery. They only have a second-round pick. There's no way we're going to be able to get him unless we make him a co-captain. So kind of a strategical move there. Earl Clark moves from Tri-State over to Trilogy, and now is a co-captain. They're also bringing back Isaiah Briscoe. It looks like they did return Devin Sweetney back to the draft pool, so he'll be competing at the combine today and could be back with Trilogy, I guess, but it looks like they are moving along this team, making it just a little bit different with Stack being at the helm once again. But I think the big thing here to recognize is that James White, who's been with this team for so long, there's been a couple of different instances where I thought he was going to be a captain and didn't get that opportunity. So just a big kudos to James White, much well-deserved, and excited to see what you do with Trilogy. Try to take them on a 2-peat, make them a team to win the championship for 3 times. I mean, that would be unreal. I think at that point, we're talking about an early dynasty within the first few years within the big 3 in the history of the league. Like, looking back on this, like 50 years later, we'll think, wow, Trilogy truly was a dynasty to kick things off within the big 3. A couple other moves that have been made that I think are well warranted and gonna be big changes in terms of what to expect in season 5. Greg Oden won't be back for Aliens. He also got a coaching job, except within the college ranks at Butler, so he will be coaching and won't be playing in the big 3 next year. That's going to be interesting to see Aliens without Greg Oden. He's been with that team since he's been drafted there. Got moved up to captain last year. It feels like one of the faces of Aliens is Greg Oden. So best of luck to him on his next endeavor and his next career path. But really going to miss seeing Greg Oden play. It's been nice to see like Oden, because obviously there's a storied past with his injuries within the NBA after being a great college player, being the #1 pick. People call him a bust, whatever the case might be. But just to have the opportunity to showcase what what kind of player he still is, and to be able to do it at a high level, on a professional level within the big 3, and really be a big impact player, dominate, go in the first round, be promoted to captain, like truly great resume within the big 3. And just want to say thank you to Greg Oden. Gonna miss watching him play as well. In his replacement, the new captain of Aliens will be Dushan Bullet, who was the #3 pick with Power last year, originally drafted the Ball Hawks, but didn't get the chance to play there. And after a stellar season, which also includes him winning a bronze medal at the Olympics, he will now be heading Aliens. And based off a Twitter space where Jeff K was talking, he mentioned that Dushan might be adding a couple international players as his co-captain. So interested to see who joins them. But as of right now, Aliens is just Dushan Bullet. And I'm assuming Rick Mahorn. I don't even want to assume Rick Mahorn because I don't know who the coach could be. That's the thing about the big 3. You can never assume anything in terms of who's going to return, who was there last year, and and who's going to be there the next year. Like, you really can't assume. Like, they will throw some curveballs and some wrenches in the mix whenever a new season is coming around. So I'm not even going to assume. Right now, Aliens is a team of one with Dushan Bullet. He'll be adding a couple players as co-captains. We'll see who the coach is, and then obviously we'll see who they get within the draft. So Aliens looking a little different. Tri-State also looking a little different because obviously, well, one, they won't have Earl Clark, which he was already going to be back in the pool. It's going to be hard to grab him again. But they'll have a new co-captain, and that'll be Justin Dentman, a guy who went undrafted last year, got picked up late by Tri-State, helped them to a #1 seed in 5 games, played so well that he was in consideration for 4th man of the year. So incredible season. We thought he was going to be drafted early on, so it's a surprise that he wasn't. But to see him now be a co-captain after, putting on when he got the opportunity is really dope to see. Not sure who will be the other co-captain. Not sure if Nate Robinson will return as captain, which that would be interesting if he didn't. It'd be really a big surprise, I'll say this, if Larry Sanders was the guy not returning, because he was in a lot of promotions early on in the BIG3 off season, and he looked like the guy that was going to be returning. He had a Tri-State jersey, he was rocking that. I guess it could have been like, he did play last year, so we're promoting guys that have played in the league in the past. But it looks like, between Rashard Lewis, Frank Nitti, and Larry Sanders being within these advertisements early in the offseason, it would just be weird if Larry Sanders wasn't the co-captain returning. So I think he's going to be returning. I think it's going to come down to, is Nate Robinson returning or is Jason Richardson returning? Guess we'll see from there. But congratulations to Justin Dentman, another guy that's scouting at the combine today. And another guy that got promoted to co-captain is Isaiah Austin. So another guy that was initially in the combine, or going to be at the combine today in the draft pool. A guy that probably would have went #1 again, in my opinion, but he's going to be a co-captain of Enemies next year, which means one of Elijah Stewart, Perry Jones, or Swaggy P. Nick Young, which I think he's still going to be the captain, will not be returning. So I think it's really going to come down to Perry Jones and Elijah Stewart, 2 guys that are playing overseas and playing phenomenal, by the way, doing really well. I'm pretty sure Elijah Stewart was MVP in the league he's playing in Romania. But congratulations to Isaiah Austin. I'm really excited to see what kind of team Enemies puts together. I feel like every year I'm pretty excited for them. They look like a perennial playoff contender, and they have yet to live up to expectations, had a couple of tough seasons. So Isaiah Austin returning, I think, is the coolest part. Remember, he said he was going to retire. He only had so many years after Marfan syndrome. But I think what the dope thing is, like, the BIG3 has allowed him with an opportunity to continue playing basketball at a professional high level, because it's not so many games. It's not 5-on-5 up and down the court. It's just a few games out of the summer where you can compete, play at a high level, get buckets, and ultimately the games matter to where you're trying to go win a championship. So congrats to Isaiah Austin. Excited to see what Enemies does this year, especially with you as a co-captain spot. And we'll wait to see who the other captains are and who you guys end up drafting. I'll say this, I'll get into the draft lottery here in a second, but Enemies finally didn't get the #1 pick after 2 straight years of this draft lottery setting. So excited to see who Enemies will draft, and I'll let you know in a sec where Enemies stands in terms of the draft lottery. And I think I've mentioned all my promotions. Obviously, I've mentioned everyone who's exited as well. Another guy who's going to be joining the league and some captain capacity. I don't know if he's going to be a captain or a co-captain yet, but it has been confirmed the team he's playing for, which means he will have a captain role. That's Gerald Green. Now, Gerald Green, a guy that Cube mentioned on his Twitter that he would love to join the league. He had a really great season with the Rio Grande Vipers after joining them. Initially, he was an assistant for the Houston Rockets, joined Rio Grande Vipers, had a really great season. They ended up winning the G League championship this past season. And now he's going to play in the BIG3. He was at the draft lottery event last night. I don't know if he's going to be the captain or the co-captain. I'm a little unsure of what Ben Vlap's going to look like. Let's be honest. They were winless last year. They had 11 guys suit up for them. Josh Smith got hurt, unfortunately. Will Bynum was in and out of the lineup. Mo Spates was released early on after being a co-captain for 2 years through the pandemic. I don't even know if Reggie Theus will be the guy coaching this team next year. I'm really unsure of what this is, what's going to look like. I think there's going to be a big shakeup. I think it starts with Gerald Green. but the first team to never win a game within the big three, albeit they only played 6 games, so they can get a chance, usually like other teams, to play 8 and try to win one. They had a league high 11 guys suit up for them, which is injuries and different COVID-related issues. It was a lot of guys getting an opportunity. It seemed like there wasn't a lot of chemistry. So, I mean, like, yes, they went winless, but obviously there was a lot of factors within there, having guys in and out of the lineup week in and week out, and your captains being hurt, injured, or not on the team. So we'll see what Bivlap looks like, but I'm excited for Gerald Green to be joining the league. A lot of people seem to think that he's an early MVP candidate. I could see it. I'm not going to say I don't see it. I still think Michael Beasley is the guy I would vote for, him or Joe Johnson. I mean, the guy who's been a 2-time MVP and won a championship and been essentially unguardable for the most part, like outside of like maybe the last few games of last season. I don't know if teams started figuring him out, but yeah, I would probably, I would say it's impossible. I would love to see it. I think it's be nice to see a different MVP year in and year out. So we'll see what happens. But the most important part here is that Gerald Green's going to be joining the big three, and that's really cool. A couple of other notable names that'll be in the draft pool. I guess I don't know if they're going to be exactly in the combine, but it's expected that they're going to be playing in the league this year as long as they get drafted. Corey Brewer is one name. So longtime NBA vet. He's been a coach with the Pelicans, I believe, and he's going to be trying out or in the draft pool. We also got Ty Lawson, a longtime NBA vet. Thought that was an interesting move. He's played in the NBA, obviously had his troubles, went overseas. I think he was still getting buckets. It was just he was still having some issues with everything. So now he gets a chance to join a league that's going to allow him to be himself, maybe just get away from some of the outside noise or like just getting himself into situations that aren't beneficial to his career, and have a chance to play in the big three, maybe remind people what kind of player he is, and at least get another opportunity to try out or play for an NBA team if that's the ultimate goal for him. So I think that's an interesting name. The other interesting name, and I'm still very unsure of his role or in what capacity he's going to play, but that's Carlos Lasmanis. The name isn't as prominent as the other two that I've mentioned, but at least if you're stateside. But if you're familiar with the FIBA style 3-on-3 basketball overseas, if you watch the men's 3-on-3 basketball games at the Olympics, this name should sound very familiar. Gold medalist with Latvia at the Olympics and the first ever men's 3-on-3 basketball games in 2020. He was the leading scorer at the Olympics with this Latvian team. He's 28 years old. He's one of the best players on that tour, and he's going to be joining the big three. Now, the reason I say I'm unsure about his role, right? So the big three this year is obviously listing everybody who's in the draft pool. His name is not on there. However, the big three has posted that he's going to be playing this year. I've chatted with him a little bit over social media, and he can't tell me exactly what's going on right now, which is pretty fair, but he has been saying that his plan is to play in the big three this summer. I'm going to go ahead and throw it out on the limb here, and I hope I get this out before it's announced, but I think he's going to be joining Dushan, right? He's not listed on the website in the draft pool. Jeff Quantnett said that Dushan Bullet was going to have 2 international players join him. These guys have played against each other and know each other pretty well in the FIBA league. It makes a lot of sense. That's a horrible reason, but it just makes a lot of sense. I'm putting 1 + 1 + 1 together to make a 3 for the big three league. Wow, that was corny. But I do think Carlos Lasmanis is going to be a part of Aliens this year, but we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they just forgot to put him on there, and he'll be at the combine and be an early draftee. We'll see. So that is all the roster news I have. In terms of the teams that have been acquired since the last time we spoke, there's been 7 more teams outside of Killer Threes that have been acquired by either a group or a cryptocurrency community, or a couple of guys that have millions and billions of dollars. So a couple guys went at this and said, screw it, I'll do it on my own. But I think most of them, it's for their just crypto communities essentially of acquiring these teams. So we know Killer Threes was obviously the first one acquired by the Gods NFT group. Since then, we've got Aliens, who was acquired by Doge or Dogecoin. Ball Hogs, that was acquired by the Krause House. Triplets were acquired by Gary V. Enemies by the Bored Ape Yacht Club. Tri-State was acquired by a group of 3 guys, Sonny Madra, Vinny Liggum, and Kevin Rose, but their community sponsors will be Moonbirds, which I think is an NFT group. Bivouac was acquired by Snoop Dogg and PayPal co-founder Ken Howery. So Snoop was initially, Ice Cube said he's going to buy some fire tier within a couple teams. I guess he said, screw it, and said, I'm going to go in on one team. And then most recently, Three's Company was acquired by King of Midtown, or as his moniker goes. And he's actually the owner of the Crypt Gallery. So 8 teams now acquired. What's really shocking here, okay, guys, Trilogy has won, and I know that by now some guys have some people out there have some fire tiers, but Trilogy has won 2 titles. They had the first ever title. Their only team with 2 titles. Weren't a team that was bought with the majority stakes. Towers won a title. Towers like got one of the best cultures, and it's been well known if you're in the Big 3 community about the culture and team that Nancy Lieberman has created. Not been picked up, or bought their fire tiers fully bought out. Ghost Ballers was probably one of the most fun teams last year with Mike Taylor, Ricky Davis, Chris Johnson, those guys. Nope, not bought either. And I don't know. I guess I'm a little shocked by it. And Three-Headed Monsters, who's been the only team to make the playoffs every single year since the league first started. Fire tier owners, not all their fire tiers bought by one big group. So I'm not sure how people made their investments or why they chose which team. I think for the Gods, they mentioned that Frank Nitti, Dante Green were compelling players that they felt were going to be best for their community and what they were looking for within the team. So I guess that's fair. Killer Threes has been a very successful team and been there since the beginning, but like 3 of the 4 teams I just mentioned there, no, all 4 teams, those are like 4 of the originals and have had success. I think there's different strong arguments to make for them to be one of the teams that someone will invest the majority stakes within. And they're not. So I guess they're up for grabs by anybody who's trying to get fire tiers at $25,000 within Ethereum. If you have that kind of bag, more power to you. I would definitely nab as many as I could on all those teams. I think they're going to be well worth the investment. I think right now the minting has been paused for like the general public. I think they were trying to make sure, like with kind of the market being down and some of the technical issues they were having, I think they wanted to make sure this was at a better time for everybody else, them being the league. So we'll see how that unfolds. Maybe all the fire tier have already been bought, but I'm interested to see if anyone else comes on and tries to get the majority stake before it's too late. Because those, especially Trilogy and Power, like guys, really? And 3, I mean, all of them. I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm shocked by it. I really am. But like, I don't think making an investment in any of those teams is bad. Like, I think everyone who gets at least one team is in a good position, especially with the way the league is going this year. So 8 of the 12 teams have been acquired. We've got tons of roster changes, so maybe there's something that they know that I don't. The last thing I want to mention here is the draft lottery, which happened last night. If you're new to the Big 3, I posted this on Twitter, so you should be following if you're unsure of this by the time you listen to this. But when it comes to the draft in the Big 3, each round goes through a lottery, just like, the NBA. It's usually just for the top 14 picks. Within the Big 3, it's for every single round. Every team that goes through this lottery, and you'll have a different pick at different rounds, more than likely. So last night it was announced, or Nancy picked the lucky ball that had the 1 on it, and Power, for the first time, I think ever in the history of the Big 3, will have the number 1 overall pick. And she shouted out Katina Mobley and Royce White, so they looks like they're returning. But that's dangerous, guys. Like, Nancy Lieberman and Power have been a really good team. She's been a really good coach. She's really good at just in terms of like the players she's added, like scouting, or like just understands which players would do really well and who to select and who to pick. Like she's been a really good GM alongside Katina Mobley. Obviously he's a player captain, so he's like kind of the general manager, but she's done a really good job like scouting and bringing in the right people to fit this culture of Power in order for them to be successful since she's joined the league year 2. I mean, obviously she won the championship in year 2, her first year. Year 3, they had a ton of injuries, and somehow she knew who to bring in that would fit the culture, fit the mold for them to take them to the playoffs last year. Last year also suffered a ton of injuries and had some guys in and out of the lineups, but again, brought the right guys in to make them competitive till the very end. Now she has the number 1 pick. I'm stoked to see who they go with. And I'm just going to let you know, Power is always a contender. So if you're trying to make a bet of who's going to win the Big 3 championship, depending on who Power takes, honestly, I would probably put a little money on that, because Power with the number 1 pick is pretty scary. They're going to get the best player within this combine, within this draft pool. I mean, I guess the best player in their eyes. And they will also have another co-captain spot to fill. So who knows? Could be someone from the combine, maybe. Maybe people haven't made the decision. Maybe that's why they haven't heard it yet. I don't know. So Power has the number 1 overall pick. Aliens will have number 2. So a little interesting there. Ghost Ballers with 3. Ballhawks with 4. Three's Company will round out the top 5. So teams that typically don't have higher picks, I feel like, outside of Ballhogs, who the first couple of years, because they were so bad, did have top picks. But the other teams, not used to seeing them pick so high. So excited to see who they grab. Triplets will be at 6. Tri-State at 7. Bivouac at 8. Tough go for Bivouac. I'm interested to see who their co-captains will be, or captains in general. Just know Gerald Green's some kind of captain. But it could be a tough go for them at 8. Killer 3 is at 9. And then Enemies will have the final pick of the first round. Kind of ironic because they've had the first pick of the first round in the past 2 drafts. So I'm not going to say it's well deserved, but kind of makes sense how the world goes round. In terms of round 2, Ballhogs will have the number 1 pick. Three's Company will have the number 2 pick. So Ballhogs and Three's Company looking pretty nice, as well as Aliens. So Enemies has the 3rd pick of the 2nd round. So they'll have actually not a bad spot to be in. They kind of have like back-to-back picks if you're doing kind of a snake draft. Or not back-to-back picks, but pretty close to it. Aliens will have the number 4 pick of the 2nd round. So the number 2 pick of the 1st round, number 4 pick of the 2nd round. Aliens trying to make some noise. Remember, Aliens, Ballhogs, Enemies, and Bivouac. None of those teams have ever been to the postseason. So that's always a team I'm keeping an eye on within the draft. So Ballhogs, Three's Company, Enemies, Aliens, top 4 picks of the 2nd round. Power 5, Tri-State 6, Triplets 7, Killer 3's 8, Bivouac 9. So Killer 3's and Bivouac have 8 and 9, and they just flip-flop in round 1. Interesting. Trilogy with their only pick at 10, Ghost Ballers with the 11th pick in the 2nd round, and then Three-Headed Monsters will have their 1 and only pick to round out the entire draft. So remember, Trilogy and Three-Headed Monsters. Trilogy typically the championship team runs it back with the same team, but we also don't see changes at the top right away after 1 good season from the captain. But essentially, the championship team and the runner-up team have the option to return their guys that aren't captains or co-captains back to the draft pool. So they both return 1 player. Kept Isaiah Briscoe for Trilogy. Three-Headed Monsters kept Kevin Murphy, obviously being co-rookie of the year. So that's why they both will only have 1 pick, and that's why their picks come in the 2nd round. In terms of 10 and 12, that's just kind of coincidental, because I guess they just got unlucky within the draft lottery there. Okay, I think that is everything that has gone on from now and the past episode. There's been a lot still to come. So make sure you're following on all platforms. And hey, this episode's not done. We appreciate everyone who's tuned in up to this point, but this episode's not done. I've updated you on all the news that's gone on. Try to explain anything that might have been missing from just some of the posts out there and some of the news that's been made public. But the episode's not done. We have a very awesome interview with Three's Company's new captain, Mario Chalmers. It's been a long time in the making, but really excited that we had the opportunity to chat with him, especially a few days after it was announced that he was actually captain. So appreciate everyone who's tuned in. Thank you to all the listeners on your preferred podcast platform, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, or the other ones out there. Appreciate if you're listening on YouTube, as well as if you're a listener on Dash Radio and the Nothing But Net channel on Saturday and or Monday. And now let's get to our interview with Mario Chalmers. On today's show, we're extremely fortunate to have on two-time NBA champ and newly appointed captain for Three's Company, Mario Chalmers. Appreciate you coming on. Like I said, this is a long time in the making. Super excited to chat with you. An exciting season coming up.
Definitely, man. Thanks for having me on here. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely. So like I said, a long time coming. I've actually been first time I think we spoke with maybe last year, but obviously had a lot going on throughout this past season, getting more opportunities or another opportunity back in the NBA and stuff. But during the midst of all that, I wanted to ask you kind of about your alumni in the Kansas Jayhawks, because it's pretty cool, one, to see obviously that they won. Obviously that's the biggest thing, right, is that they won. But it's cool too, because like a lot of times when I look at teams in the Big Three and players in the Big Three, I see a lot of guys that played together in college and get back together in college. You getting the chance to do that this next year, as you've added Brandon as one of your co-captains, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I just wanted to ask you just about like Kansas being champions again. It was the first time winning. Since you were with the team and you beat Memphis, you had the big shot that sent you into overtime. But just wanted to ask you, like, do you feel like, are you surprised that this Kansas team did it, or do you feel like Kansas was due after all these good years that they had?
I felt like they was due, just all the good years and, being cut short of COVID. So, Coach Huff had those boys working, had them believing and had them ready to go. So, when the time came to put everything together and get those 6 wins for the NCAA championship, they was able to do that. Man,
yeah, it just felt like they were definitely due. They had a lot of good teams, like you said. And what's crazy is, like I mentioned, you still play in the same league with like B. Rush and Darnell, guys you won the championship with, and you're playing with them here in 2022. I don't know if this is the case for your team anymore, as you got captains ready to go. But one player I've always thought that would be perfect for the Big Three was Darrell Arthur. Any chance we ever see Darrell play in the Big Three? Not sure if y'all are still connected or whatever, but
yeah, we're still connected.
Okay.
What's funny is he actually did sign up to play this year, and so with everything he got going on, being with the Nuggets organization and stuff like that. So we'll see if he shows up to the combine in Vegas this weekend and see if he's going to play. I've been talking to him a couple times, so we'll see what happens.
Ooh, okay. A little insight. That'd be exciting to get the guys back together. Okay. Obviously, everyone knows you have a very successful storied career within the NBA, but obviously you've had a lot of success here in the Big Three. You're now the new appointed captain, filling some big shoes for Slim, who obviously has been the captain and been part of this team since the inception. But I kind of want to walk back through your journey getting up to this point in the Big Three, because I think it's pretty neat how you got here in the first place. So I'm going to take it back to 2019 for you. You just wrapped up playing with the Grizzlies for a few years, decided to go overseas in 2019. That same year, you were also drafted in your first year of the Big Three in the 3rd round. I don't think you attended the combine, but you were drafted in the 3rd round while you were playing overseas. I guess I want to start with this question. What was your decision what was the decision process for you to go over there and play overseas, after playing with the Grizzlies?
When that last year with the Grizzlies, I was basically coming back from the Achilles tear that I had. So, whatever happened with that situation, which I don't know, I wasn't offered, another contract by the NBA or another team. So, I wanted to keep playing. So my next best option was to go overseas, and they offered me a good amount of money, and I was able to go over there and experience a different lifestyle.
Yeah, and I guess for you, like obviously you're playing overseas, you're having a lot of success, over there on the court. Things are going well. How did you hear about the opportunity, about the Big Three, and ultimately what made you want to come back and play stateside?
The main thing was just being able to play in front of my kids. Being playing overseas during the majority of the time, and I always have my kids in the summertime, and it was just something for us to do, something for them to travel with me and come see me play. So when Rashard Lewis reached out to me and asked me, was I interested? It was kind of like, yeah, I kind of like, I'll see what happens. Like, I'm not against it. So then, like you said, getting drafted, I didn't even know about the draft or anything about it. I just heard that on Twitter and my phone waking up that next day, and I seen everybody's text messages and calls, and I was just like, something new, something fun, something up and coming. Be part of a league that's on the rise, doing something good for the players that don't necessarily get the second chance to necessarily get back in the league or get to where they want to be. It's a chance to stay in shape and still be seen and still make a little money in the summertime.
No doubt. Okay, that makes a lot of sense why you were drafted in the third round by three-headed monsters for Shar's team. And I thought people were like doubting you. I didn't know what the case was. I didn't see you at the combine, but that makes more sense. Rashard had you in his back pocket, like just waiting until his last fit. Okay.
Yeah, I was shocked too.
Yeah, I'm not. I was honestly more shocked because, like you said, you were playing really well with the Grizzlies. You had the Achilles tear, but you were playing really well. I was kind of surprised at that whole draft. Like, that's the only 3-round draft they've had in the Big Three of like where some people went. Like Jay Rich went the second round. I think Brandon went in the second round. Like, I was kind of shocked, but I think people were sometimes like, it's kind of like the shiny new toy. They see people at the combine playing and they're like, oh, okay, well, they look really good. And you forget about everything else that's going on, or like people's playing careers. But I got to ask you too, like going back to the Achilles tear, you're playing you having to go overseas and play. Originally I was going to ask you because you were drafted in the third round, but you go overseas to play, you're kind of recently returned from a torn Achilles. Where were you kind of at mentally, coming into your first year of the Big Three after everything going on?
Mentally, I was just ready to keep playing. That first year being in the first year of the Big Three is when COVID hit. My season got cut short in Greece when I was in Greece that year. So, I was home early. I think I was home in March. Usually we go all the way to June, May or June. So being home in March, just sitting there, nothing to do. My mindset was just going there, having fun. Didn't know what the league was really going to be about. Didn't know what to expect. So, being a newcomer, being a rookie going in there, I just wanted to learn the ropes and have fun. And I had two great teachers that was with me, not teachers, but, guys that's been there before, Rashad and Reggie Evans. So it was just a lot of fun to be with the three-head monsters that first year.
100%. Okay, so you didn't know about the draft. You get drafted. Obviously, you're coming back from overseas, so I think there's a little bit of adjustment when it comes to like just getting back used to the time and like just getting back in the States and everything. But so it was a little bit of a slow development process, I feel like, to actually get you on the court and playing alongside everybody else. But came on really strong in week 3 back in 2019 when you were playing with three-headed monsters. I think it was against Killer Threes. I think I remember this so vividly because I was actually there in Atlanta when you guys were playing. It was a really close game. And I think you had like 16 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. And it seemed like a really seamless fit right after that. But the first thing I want to know is like, talk to me about GP as a head coach and just like him kind of like getting you implemented and playing a little bit more with the team that's been together for a while.
Man, GP a funny guy. At first I didn't play the first game because GP wanted to play his nephew or whatever, Trey. And we had so that was a little weird in the beginning. So it took me a couple of games to really get used to get my feet wet and get used to how the style of play was. But playing for GP was fun. He's a defensive minded coach when he wants to coach, and have us having the same uproot coming from Miami. We had that in common. So we had a lot of different things in common that made us gel. So GP is way cooler off the court than he is on the court. I'll say that.
I can see that for sure. And you mentioned adjustment period. What were some of the adjustments? I know you were coming to a team that had been together for a year prior. Reggie, Richard, Mahmoud have all been together for a little bit. Was there any adjustments like chemistry wise, or more so just like coming from 5-on-5 setting?
It was more coming from 5-on-5 setting. Up and down, being in transition, flow of the game. Basketball is a lot different when there's no transition. So that's the big thing when people come to the big three is that there's no transition game. So everything you gotta get, you really gotta work for it in a half court situation to show your talent. And that's the biggest thing about the big three. That's the fun thing about it.
What do you think after playing in the league for so long, like going off that, what do you think are some of the misconceptions that people and maybe even players like coming to the league and don't realize?
I know one biggest thing is a lot of people think it's like a retired players league. And, of course they went with the OGs to start everything off, the Kmars, the AIs, DeMar, and all those guys. But those guys paved the way for us. Even in the NBA and people before them. So it's always a passing of the torch. And I think right now this year is the big passing of the torch for new captains and new players to keep the league going. And show it's not a retirement league. People are still getting 10-day contracts, they're getting NBA contracts, they're getting overseas contracts. So use this as an opportunity to be seen in the summertime and work on different aspects of your game. Work on being able to play in the half court while getting hacked and fouled and not just be able to play through it. So, that's one of the major things I see. And then, that'd be the major thing I hear. Everything else is, the scheduling and things of everybody getting home from overseas. That's another thing. But, for us to keep the league going and keep it going in a positive direction, just keep competing and showing that, this league is a fun league. It's something that, when you're done with the NBA or, you're looking for that extra way to stay in shape, that extra way to make a couple dollars in the summertime, a way to be seen by other teams. The big three is that way to do it.
Preach. I couldn't have said it any better. And I think too, hey, if people are tired of the flagrant twos that we've been seeing in these playoffs like crazy or these flagrant fouls, I don't see any of that. Yeah.
Well, hard fouls coming to the big three.
Yeah, 100%. So you spent a year with three-headed monsters. You guys make the playoffs. Obviously, it doesn't end in the championship. Been a tough go-around for three-headed monsters in general, but successful. I think a good season nonetheless, especially you getting your feet wet, getting adjusted to the league. Next season, the big three doesn't happen. Then you come back in 2021 with a little bit of surprise, being a co-captain with Three's company. Can you talk to me about like how that came about, getting the opportunity to be a co-captain?
That's the funny thing. I don't know. Now, I think I'm coming back from the gym, and DJ sends me a text. DeMar sends me a text like, "Yo, hit me." I'm like, "Okay." Like I know DJ for the big three, so I'm thinking of something else. Like he want to go do something else. So I'm like, "Okay, DJ." He's like, "Yo, we're promoting you to co-captain on our team," and I was just like, "Oh, okay." Like, thank you. So I mean, it was nothing pre-talked about that I knew about, so it was kind of a shock to me.
Man, so you didn't even it wasn't like something like you asked about or something like you were envisioning or hoping to do one day. It was just kind of like,
I mean, I mentioned with like I should be a co-captain, I should be a captain just because the work I've been putting in and the name that I have and all that and what I've done for the game of basketball with the game of basketball.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that to like the upper echelon, like the class of cute and joking matter, but for them to really take it seriously and think of me like that, I mean that's great. Being in the league 3 years and getting promoted each year shows us I'm doing something right.
Well, the thing too about DeMar is that he's been very well known to recruit very well. I almost feel like it was like obviously I think a lot of like praise goes to your hard work and what you've given to the game of basketball, your accolades and that too. But I feel like too, like now thinking of it that way, DeMar kind of was like, I'm gonna make sure nobody is able to draft Rio. So I'm gonna make sure to lock him up before we actually get there, which is actually a pretty smart move within itself. But yeah, I mean, kudos to you for being able to be promoted all 3 years and just be where you're at right now. I mean, like be a part of Three's company. I think you're building something there. And like just speaking on Three's company, obviously a challenging season in 2021. There was a lot of injuries, a lot of guys that were filling in for guys that you originally had on the team. So it's tough. And then obviously too, having the season cut short for you guys after only 6 games, which was, I'm sure, a shock to everybody. But one of the things that like is a big what if to me about Three's Company is like you and Pargo, one of the scarier tandems within the league in general. In your opinion, what do you feel like the ceiling of your team was if everybody was healthy from the day one team?
That's scary. I think we could have been in championship. It's just the way our team was built versus everybody else. You know, we had Pargo, who's a ball handler driver, me a ball handler shooter. You had Drew pick and pop. You had Ryan protecting the rim. You had DJ that's a mismatch problem. So we had everything that we needed at those positions, and we had everything we needed in the 3-on-3 pickup game. I say that.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't think enough people go back and watch that game you guys had against Killer Threes, but the comeback you made on them, I think, was like an early indication of like, oh, this team's going to go far. So it's a really disappointing to see all that because it's a scary team.
COVID and injuries.
What's even crazier, and maybe like looking back on it, you don't want to think so much about the championship, is that like kind of looking at your resume, you've won at every level, right? Like high school, college, NBA, overseas.
In the Big 3 championship.
Yeah. Now you're just missing that Big 3 championship. Like you've already started to assemble this like game plan of like a championship level team with Three's Company. Like what do you feel like you're going to the combine this weekend? What do you feel like you got to do, or like who are you looking for to add to your squad and get Three's Company back to the playoffs for the first time since 2018?
I'll say this, no lie, since they announced I was captain, I probably had maybe 20 phone calls, 20 text messages, people just asking me to pick them. I'm telling everybody the same thing. I see y'all at the combine. Like, I'm going into this really trying to win, try to put a real team together. Like, I have a lot of friends in the Big 3, so I'm not going off friendship because I can't. Mm-hmm. I can't do friendship. I got to do who's ready to play, who's going to help me win, who's going to be the best for our team. And, so going in, I think talking to the guys, I've been consulting with DJ a lot, going through this process. This is my first time being a captain. So I've been talking to him a lot and just trying to pick his brain and seeing what he thinks we need. And, I kind of use DJ as the Jerry West from the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, he my Jerry West. So I run everything.
That's a good one.
Him. And so we're gonna make some noise this year. We're gonna look for 2 bigs or a guard and big. We got Bees, who's a mismatch problem. We got Brandon, who's a shooter. You got me, who's the ball handler, passer, shooter, everything. So we got everything we need. We just got to add the right pieces. They're going to bring the right mentality. And it's going to be okay with everything we're trying to do.
Man, it's scary. It's scary that you have like a consultant and a DJ right on your hip pocket there because, like, as I said, like, dude knows how to draft, especially in this league. Like everybody that's been on his team, I feel like has been a captain or a co-captain or has been really successful playing. So I'm excited to see the kind of team you put together. Obviously, the big storyline, I think, is not only you being promoted to captain and like Brandon switching teams, going from Aliens and to now Three's Company, and you guys playing together, but it's obviously Bees, like you said, a guy that I've seen you been working out with for a while, along with like Tyreek Evans and John Wall. And I guess like for you, what do you feel like is what would you feel like was the main factor to get him to come play with you, and compete for a championship in the Big 3?
I say this, the main thing I told Bees was just like, after seeing the podcast and hearing, everybody chirping about the little things that he's doing and all that, I just told him it's a chance to be back in front of everything, to write your own, come back to the basketball world on your terms, on like how you want to. And the Big 3 is a perfect way to do that. You start your summer off, go out there, kill the Big 3. You don't know what doors might open up from that, but at least you're in front of the basketball world. Everybody seeing you play, your name rings bells. Like, they're not just seeing workout videos. They're not just seeing you. They're gonna see you live in action, and they're gonna see you, be accountable, being there, showing up, running things. Showing that he could be that leader, that guy, that vet leader that a team might need. So that was the main thing that I stayed in his ear. I stayed in his ear probably a whole year telling him, like, look,
I bet, yeah.
Get my own team in the big three. You're coming. You're gonna play. You're gonna play. He kept saying like, "Hey, all right." And then when everything happened, I was like, "Beasley." He's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He was like, "All right, let me sleep on it a couple of days and I'll get back to you." He called me the next morning. I was like, "Yeah, I'll play." And then it was just a wrap from there.
Man, that's what's up. And I think too, and I know this is a big thing about the league, is like the league really wants you to be able to be yourselves and like express yourself in the ways you want to, or like just go about your own do you like go about your own manner in the sense of like, for him, it's just about playing basketball, right? At the end of the day, like he just wants to play. He doesn't want everyone in his business. He doesn't need everybody to like, just wants the privacy and to be able to play the game. Do you feel like, was that like another point of topic when you're talking about the league with him, outside of like, hey, we can really go win this thing if you play?
Not like that. It was just more like being shown, being seen, being on the forefront. Like you go out here, we win a big 3 championship, like you on the way. Like
Yeah.
Doors can open up, so many things can happen for you. It's just like the more you hide, the less opportunities you have. Not saying that he's hiding, but once you kind of fade away from the basketball scene, you kind of just go into your shell. You kind of different because everybody looks at you as that. Oh, that's Michael Beasley, the former.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So for him, it's just the wordplay and being able to go out there and have fun and enjoy the game of basketball. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, it's kind of like with your situation back in 2019. Like you weren't in front of everybody. Everyone didn't have eyes on you. So like you end up going third round. Like they would have seen you at the combine. That's probably not the case. So like I think it's just, everyone's about recency bias, right? Being able to like see like what's going on right now.
Yeah, what can you do for me right now? So that's the main thing I told him. And, I'm just happy that he committed and everything's working out so far.
How did you become captain? Do you know how you became captain of Three's Company? I mean, is this something that you were pursuing?
No, I really wasn't pursuing that. I was happy with the co-captain, like being with DJ. I've known both of those guys for a while, especially Drew for the Kansas connection.
Yeah.
I was content with being a co-captain, but then how I heard about it, DJ called me. It was like they're gonna make some changes this year, and he told me that he wasn't gonna be on the team. He wasn't gonna be the captain of the team no more. And then I was just curious, like, okay, who's gonna be the captain? And then a couple weeks later, they called me. It was like, "Yeah, we're gonna promote you to captain." I was like, "Okay, cool." So it's just something that happened, I guess. It just keeps happening.
Yeah. Well, I guess Drew's not playing either, which is pretty crazy because like you think about 2018, that team that went to the
I won't say that.
Okay, well, or maybe Drew is playing. I'm just assuming right now. I'm from the outside looking in, so everything is an assumption, right? Like everything.
Everything's an assumption right now. I got my captain hat on, my coach hat on with Coop. So in our back pocket, we're gonna see what's going on.
Ooh, that'd be a nice big to have. I'm picking pop big. Like, we've seen what plus he helped this team go to the playoffs in 2018, right? Like him, Dre, BD. What's that?
At the end of the last year, he was playing big time. He had a couple good games last year.
I think the last game of the season, he had like 22, just knocking down every shot. So
I had 10 assists just off him.
I think one big steal lost in the midst of all this is just adding Brandon. Like, to be honest, like I saw the news about aliens changing, Dushan getting his own team and like adding some international guys. I was like, and I obviously follow Brandon on Instagram. I'm like, is this dude just about to just play golf, or is he done playing? Like, I didn't know if he was just going to go the golfing route. You swiped him from the aliens. You're like, okay, like, Adam, what are you most excited about? Just like playing with him again, and just like what he brings to the team.
Yeah, just having him on my team. That's been my best friend since we was 12 years old. So we've always been together. We've always been playing basketball. So just to be on the same level, competing, same team competing against each other. Competing with each other. It'll be fun again. Back to our Kansas days.
Yeah, that's gonna be real fun to watch, and I'm curious to see like who you draft. I heard something where like it might be 3 people, but I don't know if that's the case. It sounds like it's still gonna be.
I'm still trying to figure that out too. So I guess we'll find everything out.
Yeah, there's a lot of names in that draft pool. I feel like every day they're still adding to it. We got 4 of the top 5 picks from last year back in the pool. Got guys that are playing from the 3-on-3 FIBA league that, you know, played in the Olympics. Got former like NBA vets maybe you haven't heard of in a long time. I know you mentioned that you're looking for a guard in a bit. What's that?
And Norris Cole signed up too.
I know that's great. That's another former teammate. But I mean, honestly, like I know you mentioned that a guard and a big is kind of who you're looking for. I know that it's not going to matter on friendship or relationships that you've had in the past. Like the combine is going to be a big indicator of who you choose. But like I'm sure you're going to go in there like you've done a little bit of homework and you have some ideas of who you might, you know, I'd be looking at least from a beginning, like with the keener eyes, or anybody that like sticks out that's like, if the draft goes my way and I'm a top 5 pick that today, and I didn't know anything about the combine that you might like consider drafting, like anybody that sticks out?
There's a couple names that stick out. I just want to see how they look at the combine first. If the game matched the name, then it's gonna be perfect.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy that the number 1 pick is back into the pool as well, and Isaiah Austin. So
they better hope I don't get the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Curious too. Like I know Tyreek is got a chance to get back to the NBA or to the G League. You know, amid his 2-year layoff. Was Tyreek anybody that like you were also like, hey, you're coming too?
Tyreek not ready to do BIG3 yet. He still got his eyes open on his NBA return. You know, going through what he's been through. He's focused on one thing, and I respect that. And you know,
yeah,
like, we got a nice little brotherhood of us, you know, in Miami. So we all push each other, you know, no matter what our goals is to get ready for the BIG3 or to get ready for the NBA workout. You know, we're gonna get to work in. We're gonna push each other to the max every time.
that's dope. Yeah, I think that's important to have that core group, like you're saying, and you know, gotta respect that too. I like that the BIG3 is like at least an option now, though, rather than just like like you said at the beginning, misconception of like a retirement league or like older players go to die there. And I think that's the same thing about the G League season. You just wrapped up a G League season playing for Sioux Force. Yeah, Sioux. I was like, something about that doesn't sound right. But just like, what was the season like playing? You know, playing for them. I know you didn't really get like an opportunity to play on the court with Miami again, but like just and what was your NBA G League season like, you know, coming off a BIG3 last year for you?
I'm not gonna lie, I had fun. I had fun in the G League, just being able to play against the young guys and, you know, be able to compete with them and, you know, getting that respect, you know, hearing the young guys call me OG and asking me for, you know, autograph stuff and asking me for pointers on different things. So it's a good way for me to be able to teach and coach without necessarily being a coach. And well, it's a way for me to compete and still be able to be teaching and help the young guys and coach. And that's the main. Not necessarily ready to go into coaching yet. You know, I still like competing. I still like getting on the court, and I can still hold my own. So that was the main thing about it. But just being able to prove that I can still play and showing the young players, like, yeah, you know, us old guys back in the day, I might not got a lot of shots playing with Braun and all the BIG3, but I can still do my thing. So it was a lot of fun.
100%. I think you know what's crazy is, and like I think too, the BIG3 is a big reflection of like, hey, there's a reason that there's NBA vets are so valuable. But like it's crazy to me, like in the NBA, like there's so many like into the bench players that are like developmental players sometimes, or like guys that they hope to have rather than like NBA vets. Like you're seeing it with like Philadelphia, right? Like a team that's doesn't have a lot of depth in their team. Like they would, and they have a couple of vets, don't get me wrong, but like, you know how much like value that would be like in a situation like this right now where they don't have a lot of depth, but they have some younger guys that they're like, oh, we don't know if we can play yet. So I think it's crazy to me that like so many NBA teams right now decide like we'd rather have a developmental prospect over an NBA vet. But I think at the flip side of that is like the G League is now inviting a lot more NBA veterans to come play. Like we obviously saw that this past year to like potentially get back into the NBA. Why do you feel like in a league where like they were also in a situation at one point where it's like, this is where careers go to die. Like NBA vets were like, in a sense, we're just like, fuck it, let's just go play down there. If NBA teams aren't necessarily calling our name right at this moment.
I think the biggest thing with that is just players get tired of going overseas and actually battling for their money. I know I had to do with that a couple of my years over there. You're not getting paid all your money, and still trying to figure out how to eat and spend your own money over there without getting paid. Man. So I think a lot of people got fed up with that. It was just like, it's a way for me to stay home, be with my family, be able to play in front of the home crowd, even though the pay's not the same, but it's still a chance for me to be home, and I'm not have to worry about anything. So I think that's the biggest thing with the G League coming to Brown now. I think it's great that they're picking up more vets, and more vets are getting interested in the G League. I've always said that I feel like each G League team should have at least 2 to 3 vets on their team, just to help out with the everyday lifestyle of what it really takes to be an NBA player and what you really go through. Just different things like that. So it's not all on the coaches. It's not all on them. It's just still a way to help teach and provide a different way.
Yeah, no, I think that rings true a lot. And cool thing too is like the big three has actually gotten a lot younger. So I think that it just provides another option. But like within saying that, now playing in both leagues, like the G League and the Big Three, what are your thoughts on like younger guys, like when maybe they're right out of college or just taking like they want to take a different route to try to get to the NBA? Like, what are your thoughts on, I know everything's like situational, but what are your thoughts on like a player going through like the Big Three to ultimately try to achieve their dreams of playing in the NBA? Like, do you think the Big Three is at a point where it's like viable right now for maybe someone that's like 22 or 23, or do you still feel like the G League is the route, like the better option?
I would say that G League is the better route and option, only because it's a full court game. In the Big Three, you're not playing up and down full court. You're not being able to show everything you can do. Like, some people might be better athletes than they are scorers or technicians on the court. Them coming to the Big Three is not going to help them, and it's not going to help them show them their real true set or what value they can bring to a team. So that's the only reason I said the G League would be better.
No, that makes sense. I think it's such an interesting topic too, because it's like they don't necessarily get to show off their like athleticism, but at the same time, like you get to like really refine your skills in your game playing in the Big Three. It's cool too. A couple more questions and we'll wrap it up. Honestly, probably the last question here, but you've got a taste of the NBA a little bit this past year, playing the G League, playing in the Big Three. Regardless of where you play, like it seems like you love the game, but is the ultimate goal still to get another shot playing in the NBA, or what are your like ultimate goals as you like head into the Big Three this summer?
Definitely, I do want to get one more year out the NBA. Just sitting on that 9th year, it'd be great to go in there and get my 10th year, and be able to go out, walk away on my terms or how I want to, and just that. So that'd be NBA is still a goal of mine, but if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Right, like you said, you get to walk on your own terms playing a professional high level in the Big Three. So appreciate the time, man. Really looking forward to, I guess, some thoughts from the combine as well as the draft and who you end up going with, especially if you get the number 1 pick. Best of luck this summer. I hope you get to complete like the all the rings on your hands, after winning your Big Three championship. And appreciate the time and really looking forward to what you and Three's company do this summer.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good day.
All right, that was our interview with Three's Company's new captain, Mario Chalmers. We appreciate everyone who tuned in to the entirety of the episode, and really appreciate Rio for coming on. Busy guy. It was someone that we tried to get on early in the offseason, but we really appreciate him just letting us know first that there was going to be some big news, and we'd probably want to wait to have him on the show. Really appreciate him just like getting back to us. He obviously got a chance to get back to the NBA and played like pretty much a full season within the G League for the Miami Heat affiliate. So just really appreciate him being in communication and just being honest with us. coming on the show, sharing his big three story and what he hopes to do, this year with Michael Beasley and Brandon Rush, alongside him this year, and what kind of team they're forming. Obviously, now you have an idea of what kind of guys he might be looking for, but it's not about friendship. It's not about connections. It's all about who performed well at the combine, who's going to fit this team the best with Three's company. So excited to see if they can make it back to the playoffs for the first time since 2018. Again, thank you to everyone who tuned in. Make sure you're following the show on socials at Fourth Man Pod. Subscribe, hit the notification bell for all your updates on the show on YouTube at youtube.com/fourthmanpod. I appreciate everyone who listened on Dash Radio and the Nuts But Ned channel. That is everything. We'll be back very soon, and make sure you guys are looking out for the live stream dates, and we'll see you guys next time.